the smoke-filled clouds of the 303, all the way down to the 505. This is the Dro Bros Show with Remo Vinci, Grimx, and Soul Doja. Yeah, the Dro Bros Show.
All right, everybody. This is Mr. Vicious Remo Vinci, and we are back with episode 5 of the Dro Bros Show. And today we have a special guest with us today. But first, before we get to him, let me introduce Soul Doja and Grimx. Say what's up, fellas.
What up? What up, everybody?
Hi, guys.
And like I said, we have a special guest with us today. Since 5 is my favorite number, I was hoping that we could do a special episode today. And luckily, we got one of our dear friends with us and one of our common threads that brought us all together. He is the master producer behind the intro and the outro to our show. Everybody give it up to Antone Beats.
Ooh.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. AKA Tony Baloney in this speech.
Tony Baloney.
I asked these dudes, I was like, hey man, I was like, do we use our like civilian names? And he was like, I was like, oh shit, I better come up with a name real quick. Tony Baloney, dude.
Oh hell.
That works for me. For me.
I was the master producer, dude. Like, it's been so long, man.
Oh, we'll get into all of that.
So long, dude.
We will get into all of that. In fact, let's go ahead and jump right on in, since we only have you for a short amount of time, I'm assuming, because we all got kids and lives and stuff that we got to get back to shortly. So let's just go ahead and dive right on into it. Antone, like I said, is one of the most talented producers I've ever been around. And y'all know I've been in this rap game for a couple decades already. So to say that for me means a lot. And this guy, I was privileged enough to have the very first recording over one of his beats. And I don't even know if I still have that song anymore, to be honest with you. I've been looking for it. I don't know if it's in the archives. Maybe Doja has it. But Antone, want to tell us a little bit about your story as far as how you started making beats and what led up to that?
You, dude, it's your fault. You were, I don't know, man. We were just young kids, bro. I thought I was being an adult by having my own apartment, living with Jeremiah. And you came in and just bummed your way into my life. And it pissed me off. At that time, it is a fruitful thing, man. Like, I appreciate you. Like, you know, you're one of the dudes that I mean, I really don't talk to anybody. But me and you, we stayed connected, man, all these years. It's been great. And you brought over that Roland, I'm pretty sure it was a VSA 80. That's what I tattooed, man. So it has to be that. That's the tattoo, the Roland VSA 80. And it was like, I think it was was it a 4-channel? I think it was a 4-channel recorder.
That sounds right.
Remember that?
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that, man?
So
Yeah.
the story behind that recorder is we mentioned in previous shows my cousin Skrilla, who kind of put me on game, who put me in the first half a dozen studios I was ever in, and who owned the label I was on, for those of you that don't know. Anyway, Skrilla had come across this piece of equipment and had seen it in previous rap documentaries or whatever, and saw that you could do quite a bit with it. And he was basically giving it to me to figure it out and to learn it. Now, yeah. I am not necessarily tech savvy when it comes to like production and stuff like that, or the equipment and software or hardware, I guess. I'm more of the creative type where it's just about lyrics and coming up with concepts and actually writing the songs, not necessarily producing the music. So when I got it, I didn't really know what to do with it. And like you said,
dude, that was the other thing, man. Like you have to like understand the context of like Delane was around. I think Delane was already living. We were in our apartments.
Yeah, so let's
how like just kind of like we were so poor. Those were like some of the cheapest apartments we could find, and you know, what I mean, we're living with nothing, and then so we're trying to like pay rent by having you come be a roommate, which you were the roommate, but you know, and rent never got paid. That's why we all got kicked out. But so like for you, just out of nowhere to be like, you just showed up with this shit, like, and it kind of makes sense, right? Like that equipment is so old, no one should have had that at that time. These are like relics of like the past, you know what I mean? Where like they were probably worth some shit when they first came out, and now it's like they shouldn't really be worth anything. But we had nothing, so I remember us all being on the floor. You're like, look at this, and we're like, what is it? You're like, I don't know. You make beats on it, you could record on it, and there, you had the manual with it. You had the actual like Roland little 4-track recorder, and like a kid's keyboard essentially, and like the Holy Ghost came over me, dude. Like, I mean, it just like seeped into my body. I was like, I'm gonna learn this shit inside out, and I could like every time, right? Like anytime I was alone, dude, I was fucking with it. I just wanted to be alone and learn this shit. Like I learned that there was effects in there, and it just like anytime I heard a new effect, it would just like, you know what I mean? Like just almost like this expansion of like, oh my God, so much more can be done. So here's this stupid kid's piano sound. Well, here's this kid's piano sound with reverb. Here's this kid's piano sound with distortion. Here's that same piano sound with like both of them together. And it just like, dude, my mind was just going like just firing like crazy. And that's it. Like that's what started it. Like I just knew right then, I was like, I am going to learn this machine. And even after it went away, I was like, I went out and bought one. I was like, I was like addicted to it, dude. I was like, I have to have this in my life. Saved my money, went to Guitar Center. I bought that. And I bought like a drum machine, like another little Roland like sample. It wasn't a sampler. It was I can't remember, dude. It was had like a simple sequencer on it, just like real basic drum sounds. And I was like, this isn't it. Like this isn't enough. And so I took it back. I was like, take this back. I don't want it. I think I got my money back for it. And then I sold the
What
drum
the fuck?
machine. I sold that drum machine. And then I knew that like music production was going to be done or was going to be done on computers, you know. I met a kid a long time ago. He's like, hey, check this out. We were smoking. And he was like, hey, let me show you something I made. And that blew me away that he made this. I was like, how'd you do this? And he's like, oh, I stole this program off the internet. And I was like, just put it out of my mind, right? This was like years before, man. And so yeah, I took all this stuff back, got my money back, and I just started reading on how to build a computer. I ordered all the parts. I figured it out. I built my own computer, and slowly like built my setup because I had to, dude. I had to have it. Like I can't stress to you enough at that time, like how much I had to have like music in my life, right? But like the creation of it, it was like the creation of it,
I love that.
man. And you
I
know,
love that.
that was the start of it, really. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Grim, did you want to add a little more backstory to the whole thing? I saw in the beginning there you were trying to get a little more into the origin story of Antone Beats over here.
So remember, we met at the Fort Morgan Middle School when I moved to Fort Morgan in 6th grade. And actually, I think that middle school, I don't know if it's still active anymore. I think they built another one. Remember down on West Street? I don't know if
Yeah,
you've
it's
been
over by my old house. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And those they cleared out that cornfield. And yeah, dude, I was curious about this because like you and we've known each other longer than I've known these other two dudes, but I couldn't remember like where it began, like how I know you like our paths crossed a little bit. But you were like hanging out with different people. I was hanging out with different people. And
Yeah.
yeah, how did we?
Right. Remember, we didn't have classes together till high school. Remember when you, me, Chunk, Brent, Michael Lee, we were all in art class together, and
Yeah, dude. This guy would be like, "Here, have some chew," and I'm like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "Yeah, yeah." Like, it's like it's good for you, man. It's medicine. Like, yeah. Have some chew. I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. But
Honestly, I've made bad decisions with all of you guys. To be honest.
so the way I met these other guys was, remember you were working at UPS, and I don't remember if you got me a job or you just told me about it, and I ended up working there. And you met
Did you go over there?
Yeah, so you met Maya through us, okay? And that's how you guys were rooming. And then you introduced me to Maya, who I met Remo through, and I met Soul Doja through. And that's when me and Brandon moved over there to the federal apartments.
Yep.
Whatever the heck it was
Hold
called.
on, give me 1 second.
And that's when I remember meeting you, Grim, because I remember being in a car specifically with Maya and them, and we were smoking, and they were like, "This is our buddy Delane," and I was like, "Huh," you know, and it was over after that. Next thing you know, we
Which was
hooked up.
cool, right? Like that's pretty neat, man. Because it's just like you were from like a new group of friends when I moved to Denver, and Delane was like from an old group of friends. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And it was neat to have you and Brandon up there because like there was part of me where I was like, oh man, I have all these friends in Fort Morgan. Like I need to was missing all them dudes and like it was kind of neat for you to. I don't know. I just felt like you guys knew I could communicate with you about like where we come from and then also like where we're at versus like, I know like you guys, you, Jeremiah, I think Joe could understand a little bit just because he was, I think, TRC was probably maybe similar, but Fort Morgan is strange, dude. This is a weird place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was kind of neat to like have you and your brother just literally right up the way.
So to add
Yeah,
a
it
little
was cool, man.
more context to the whole thing here, um, Doja and I were actually in a group back in the day together. I still rep it every now and then, and I know Doja does too. But we were in a group called the DA, the Deadly Alliance, and we've already referred to Maya a couple times. Jeremiah, he's Ashes from the Deadly Alliance. The Styrofoam Booth mixtape is out on my SoundCloud now, so go ahead and peep it out. Everybody that wants to peep it out. But Maya was very
Dude, that's a dope name, dude.
right. I actually named him
Yeah,
that
dude,
one.
that's cool.
I named him that one time because we were we used to go to a bunch of house parties, and he used to freestyle all the time. That was like one of his gimmicks, And we go, and once he would start freestyling, that's all that was left was Ashes because he would just
Well,
smash everybody.
yeah, because
And
fools would try to battle rap him, and then that fool would fucking light him on fire, and then the ashes are only left after he whooped their ass, and they would get all offended. I'll
yep,
never forget that. Remember that party across from Huron? He battled like 5 different groups of gangsters and this and that, and they were all hurt, and we were just like, man, that's why you're ashes, bro. You just keep laying these fools out like nothing.
I
But
remember
but and then to add on to this, man, like to add on that, and that's how I met Joe was through Jeremiah, like,
Yeah.
and so the whole thing, like, yeah,
and
I'm
Jeremiah
joking, silly
is
guy,
actually
you dude.
and Jeremiah is actually Joe's like extended family, right? You guys have
Yeah. And
Dude,
me and
oh,
him
that's
got
right.
something we got something in the works too. Uh we're not letting the cat out yet. But
You and Jeremiah, how's he doing, man? I haven't talked to him in
oh,
forever,
he's
but
just raising his kid and out there in Alamosa. He's doing good. I mean, he's like the
oh,
happiest I
he's
ever.
he's in Alamosa. I think
Yeah.
that's maybe like 2 hours from me, dude. It's not super far from here, but that's
Yeah,
cool,
I went
dude.
out
Living that
there
mountain
a
life.
couple years back and visit him in the Papo. Papo's still going strong,
Is
like
that right?
yeah. Yeah,
What
so
happened with that
nice.
house then?
They sold it. Dude, a
Did
house
they?
that a car actually wrecked off the road and into the back of the house where Jeremiah's room was.
Holy shit, man.
yeah, I remember when it was all under construction still.
Yeah, yeah.
It's what like that house was never like it's interesting. It was like a staple, like not necessarily my staple. You know what I mean? But like Joe was out there, and then like Ashley would talk about it, and Jeremiah would talk about it. We'd go over there a handful of times and shit. It's just like, yeah, man, the house was a. You tell the house was a staple, dude. And then you used to have, wasn't it like 2 or 3 doors down?
Kurt,
You had like some
yeah.
interesting conspiracy friends, which I
Yeah.
listen. That's really why I was like, I got to get on here and I gotta ask these dudes about the conspiracy. You're too
Oh,
Rich.
Kurt,
You're too
Kurt's like,
vanilla for this, man. Like, so what's cool is like, you know, every now and then I'm like, I'm like, oh, I think I'm out there. You know what I mean? And then I would talk to Joe, and this dude would just be like so far out there. I'm like, no, bro, you're crazy. It was
fuck.
fun.
well, so
I'd be like,
you brought
oh, hey. I'd be like, huh?
since you brought it up, and it was kind of touched on in our last couple episodes, and it's modern news. You guys have any thoughts on the P Diddy going on?
Hey, did they catch
Yeah,
him
yeah,
yet?
yeah, yeah. I got a thought. Fuck that guy, dude. Who cares, dude? Yeah, dude. I
Man.
mean, no, I just see something that it said like Cuba Gooding Jr. got in trouble too, like in relation to that. Is that?
Uh, I don't know if it was with the same exact situations, but I did read up on Cuba just this last week, actually, and he had some similar situations where he was inappropriately touching people without their permission or consent or something like that, and ended up getting himself in trouble also. So
Yeah.
Cuba's just making stupid, dumb decisions, but
Hey,
Diddy is just pure evil. That motherfucker, he deserves.
Okay, so I didn't read into it too much. What is the allegation? It's sexual
Upon.
assault, right?
He's basically a Jeffrey Epstein, but black.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
where
For
that
lack of a better
conspiracy
term,
comes
yeah.
in. I'm like, hey, the newspaper said this, and Joe will be like, no, let's read between all those lines that aren't there, bro.
Yeah. You know. But yeah,
And listen, we're only like a couple of degrees away before Joe's gonna break it. And this is what I mean. I'd be like, hey man, isn't this crazy? You know, rich people doing this and that. He's gonna go, yeah, but isn't it weird that he knows Oprah and the Clintons and reptile aliens? You know what I mean?
yeah. I I still be on
Dude,
that shit.
that
That's
was
gonna be
like the
another
bulk of our
show.
conversations. I love, huh?
Yeah. But
That'll
bro,
Dude, I love it
another
though. No, no,
show,
no, no.
bro. Another
But you,
show.
no, but you see, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's like an entertaining element to that shit, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like to talk to somebody else doesn't have, I don't have all those points of views. And I can tell this dude, I would tell him all the time, like, dude, that's garbage, bro. I don't believe that at all. But it's fun. Like I always enjoy talking to this dude. And then same thing with Delane, and I was saying I'd seen a clip of like you and Adam. You guys were talking. I told Rich this. I was like, "Hey man, I see you're talking on maybe on another podcast or something. I have no clue what you were saying, man. Like it's right over my head." And and I told Rich, I was like, "Dude, like it was just like bizarre, but it also took me back to that same apartment. We'd go hang out at your house, dude, and we'd all just be like stoned out of our minds, and you and Adam would be talking to me, and I have no idea what you're saying, bro. No clue. And it was one of the most like comfortable. It was like so when I heard you guys talking, like even though it went over my head, like this comfort just came over me. And I just felt like I was like back at your couch, you know what I mean? Just like chilling. It was great. I enjoyed it, man. I never knew what Adam was talking about. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ever.
fuck that couch.
Why, dude?
That
yeah.
fucking couch gave me fucking bed bug rash all the way down my shit one time. We had to throw it away.
I
Remember?
forgot about that.
Remember?
I don't remember that happened to you, but I remember you guys had that problem and they kept fucking with you, not taking care of that apartment. Grimy apartments. Dude, do you remember like in our kitchen we had drywall under the linoleum?
I don't remember that.
You remember that? Yeah, that place was weird, man. They never fixed our air conditioning all the time. It'd be so hot on that third floor. Third or was it third or fourth floor?
You were
Third.
on third, and me and Brandon
Third
were
floor.
first, and then fuck. Remember they took my weed maintenance
Oh yeah, dude.
section.
I went over there and I told him that, dude, because all my shit went like we were about to move out, and all my shit got stolen. I was like, man. So I went over there and I was like, this bitch probably stole all my shit. I was like, hey. She's like, what? I was like, you stole my shit. And she was like, what are you talking about? I didn't steal your shit. And I was like, yeah, you did. All my shit's gone. And she's like, why would you come accuse me of that? I was like, because you went to my friend's house and you stole his weed. And she was like, we were going to do inspections and I did him a favor. I was like, okay, I don't know. What do you say to that? You know,
Right?
I tried, man. I called her out.
It
You
was a,
remember that lady, big old, she's a big girl.
that was a crazy place. That was
Yeah,
a
man,
part.
yeah, you know,
You
it
remember
was
that?
fun, man. It was like,
You remember that time when we were walking back into the apartment and some dude jumped out the freaking tree and was like 303, and then he ran back out. And Jeremiah and I were like, "What the fuck just happened?"
yeah, I remember that, dude.
You remember Antone when we were walking on 92nd, right by the apartments, and there's that hole in the fence, and you and I were walking through there 4th of July, and Adam was walking on the mud. Remember barefoot because he always used to walk around that way, and he slipped on the
Oh,
mud
yeah.
and made that cartoon sound. It was all whip, and then he hit down, the air exited his body. You and me were laughing so hard.
Hell no.
That
Seriously,
was
but
a
this was like,
cartoon
this
for
was
sure.
dude, and that's what, like, I mean, like, the beauty of that whole thing was just like, we were all, and honestly, I felt like Delane, like, this is, you know, in Morgan, this is how we were too, man. Like, you know, you were just kind of like this, I don't know, like a glob, like a mix of all these kind of not, I mean, cultures for sure, right? Um, but then it was just like, you know, like this, like these skaters, and then like the hip hop kind of shit. Like
Yeah.
it definitely reached out there, man. It was at Morgan too, you know. You would get like some of like this thug influence. And some of it was pretty gnarly, bro. Like you'd be surprised for being like a cow town, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it would fall like the drug route. I don't know what it was, but like it would be pretty crazy. And so when we came up to Denver, it was the same. I felt like the same thing, right? Like it was me, the Mexican American, and I felt like Denver already wanted to paint me in a box. Like, yo, dude, you should be like this. You should be like, you know, you're Chicano. This. You should dress like this. You should listen to this. That wasn't my shit, right? But then I met you guys, and you're like, yo, well, this is the city. This is how the city is fucking like groomed us or grown us or whatever, right? Um, and it was still like a mix because like you throw Adam in that shit, and it's just like the art, that whole art crowd.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like being exposed to that shit, like was just, it was the best. I seen some weird stuff, dude, especially
Hey,
from that art crowd. Just some bizarre
Martin up
things, bro.
there too.
What's up?
Martin and Mike came up. Remember Michael Lee?
He did for a little bit, yeah, man. Man, he didn't really stay for long though, bro. He ended up
No.
dipping back. But Martin just like it was cool to see him because it was like he evolved into something completely different. Um, you know, what I mean? I was just telling you, he got those tattoos on his hands. Like I know he does like he plays saxophone for like I don't know what kind of band it is, man. Like they're not quite rock, I don't think, you know. But like he's just
Dude,
actively involved in and shit like that.
remember
Like
he was
it's
playing
cool, man.
sax
I really like it.
since middle
Huh?
school. Remember he would carry around his saxophone back in middle school.
Yeah. Me and him were in band. Me and him were in a jazz band together, man. In middle school. And then and my school forced me to stop playing. And he stuck to it, so oh no, it was cool, man. But I appreciated that. I felt like that whole group we had while I was living at Federal at 92nd, and that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
92nd and Federal. That whole group, we were just such a weird mixture of people, dude. but everybody accepted each other, you know?
Yeah.
Fucking Adam, dude. That guy was so crazy, man. Right before we left, he like I don't know how. I don't have no idea how he found me, which wasn't uncommon. You know what I mean? That dude would just like sometimes. I remember one time we were all standing around and we were like blah blah blah. It'd be crazy if Adam was here or whatever, and he just like showed up, like
Yeah.
walked up to our group and we're just like,
Corner.
"What the fuck, dude?" Yeah, yeah. That happened like right before I left Denver. Like I don't know how he found me, and I was like, "Dude, let's go." We went to go eat at Jerusalem's, and same thing, man. He was just like, I don't know what he said that whole time, but it was great talking to him. You know?
So this guy Adam that we're talking about, I remember he brought his computer over to the house, to the apartment that we stayed at, and I recorded a few songs on there. Some of my favorite songs that I did at the time were recorded on a little ass microphone on the screen of the computer. That was pretty dope, and I still have some of that shit. So thank you, Adam,
Dude, that
for
garage
allowing
band.
me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the first person to show me Ableton Live because he's seen how much I was. Because remember, he would carry that computer around like it was a laptop,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't a laptop, you know. And he's seen how much I was like getting into like just like messing with the keyboard and messing with that recorder. And he was like, "Look at this." I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Ableton." And I was like, "What is it?" And he was like, "It's to make music." And it looked like it almost looks childish. Like there's no. Do you remember Reason? That
Mhm.
program Reason. All right, and then you remember even GarageBand like
Yeah.
graphics. Like they're trying to make these graphics. Ableton scrapped that completely. They were the color scheme was like three colors. It'd be like gray, white, oh black and orange. No shading. So you would turn a knob, like you would move knobs in the program, and that's what it was. That was the first time I seen it. I was like, what is that, dude? And he's like, I don't know. It's for making music. And I tried to mess with it a little bit, couldn't figure it out, and it just like planted a seed in my mind. I just like couldn't get. I was like, I have to. Kept doing Reason, Reason, Reason. Joe got Reason. I would go to Joe's house. Would be doing Reason, 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 and then I felt like I hit a limit. I was like, this. I've tapped this. Like this is not enough. And I was like, what was that thing Adam showed me? Went and found it and been using that ever since, man.
So
Fucking
so let
Adam. Dude, this dude, like and that was the thing too, when he came and see me, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, hey, you remember you showed me this all that, like all those years ago? And he's like, yeah. I was like, listen to this shit. And he was just like, dude, he was like cheering me on. You know, he was like, yeah, I could just see him like, you know what I mean? Like shit was going on in his brain. He's like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. Like, dude, this is your fault. Thank you.
so let's get into that actually a little bit. So you kind of took us from where you started to get interested in it and how you needed to have that in your life. So what happened from then to when you started actually making the computers yourself and actually started to make beats like as a regular thing?
Um, I mean, I don't know, man. Honestly, like I felt like that was like that beginning part was like that catalyst that like there was the most movement in there, right? Because once it was done, once I figured out how to build these computers, once I figured out like how like better processor, better graphics card makes the music go better. Once you have a sound card, like and that sound card has more channels, like I just was like growing it. You know what I mean? And I would say right before I left Denver, and I don't know if you've seen it, Joe. You had, dude. I know you have, man. You came through. I don't know if Delane had seen it. Joe, or I mean, Rich, you were there, definitely there. But right before I left Denver, like that was it, like at its peak, equipment wise, right?
Yeah.
Like I had the two turntables, I had a mixer, I had a little tiny keyboard that I could trigger MIDI. They call them MIDI scenes, so I could like trigger clips with it. I had another like external mixer. I had an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar. I had all these records. I had my keyboard. You know what I mean? Like it was just in my mind, it was like, dude, this is it. Like my creativity, as far as like music goes, could go could go on. It could go far. Um, and like even though I said I was in in band, like I forgot, dude, I couldn't read a note today if I tried, bro. And so like that bit me in the ass a little bit, even to this day. Because I've met like musicians, you know, and they'll be like, hey, you know, I'm like, oh, let's jam. And it's like, dude, I don't know how. Like, I know how to take this sound and like destroy it until it sounds exactly what I want it to sound like. You know what I mean? So, like, when people say that, like, hey, what do you, you know, what kind of music do you make? I'm like, dude, it's more like sound design and like, you know, audio production. It's easier to say that than like, you know, or I say I make beats, but it's like, I can't really say like, hey, you know, I make music or I jam or whatever, which is like I do. I could make it's I'm making music, but in my mind it's like that's kind of like where that strength is, you know what I mean? Like you aren't gonna see me like tickling the ivories or like jamming on the guitar, but I might be able to play a chord and be like, yes, tune that, pitch that, do whatever I want. And then like play something. I'll play like some, you know, maybe go up an octave or down an octave within that like chord and like just build something around that, right? Like I could add like one, you know, drum set and then go back later on and like add another one or split it up or whatever. So it's just like that's really like where I say like my strength is like I could build out that sound. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, like so after I left Denver and after I knew we were gonna be moving for a while, so like I just downsized a lot. Like all that equipment kind of went away. And it was like, hey, it's just like me, the computer, my keyboard. What can I do? And what I found is like you can still grow even by downsizing, right? Because like now I need to get better at just this, right? Instead of like expanding, go, okay, I have all this stuff at my disposal. I have this at my disposal. But if you work hard enough, like my sound, like I was able to make a bigger sound once I moved out here. You know what I mean? Like I could hear things differently when I moved out here. Just learn, man. Just learn and learn. What are other people doing? How did they get that sound? And I would just sometimes I just go in a rabbit hole. What is that? How did you do that? Why does it sound that way? That's it, man. But
I've always,
sometimes too, I'll say this, like, huh?
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'll say sometimes that's the problem too. Like I will spend so much time tweaking a sound, like you know, or like trying to make it do what I want it to do. And I'll spend all this time on it for just one thing, man. Like one tiny, it could be a tiny sound or just like the whole song itself. And I'll get tired of it. Like I'll just spend so much time on it where I'm like, I hate this whole thing. And I'm not interested anymore, you know? But sometimes I'll take what I've learned from that and then I can apply that into another beat or something.
I've always attributed your style, I guess, for lack of a better term, to being like something like a movie score almost, because you have this ability to like take emotion and be able to convey that with very unconventional sounds. And like that has just always been so awesome to me because like for whatever reason, it always just clicked. It always clicked for me, and that whatever emotion that I was feeling at the time, or even if it just kind of showed me an emotion to go with or to run with, it always made it so easy as the MC or as the artist to work with. And I've always appreciated that. And for those that don't know, the intros that I did for the other previous podcasts that I did them for the Wrestling Compadres and for Ringside Pop were also Antone Beats productions. So like that alone shows you how much influence, I guess, from the movie score type of thing, because it works great for like intros and outros and for stuff like that. So just a little quick little trivia note for those that don't know.
And I hate those songs, all of them. No, but that's like a huge part of it, right? Like Joe knows this, you know this. Like I would just I make them, I make them, I make them. I build like a foundation, and then I just like I'm like I don't like it, or I can't get to the next part, and so I have like a huge chunk of like all this library that I've built, where it's just like either unfinished or I just don't. I'm just not happy with it, right? But I also recognize like from working with you, working with Joe, like that doesn't mean someone else isn't gonna it doesn't see something, hear something, you know what I mean? It doesn't inspire something. So a lot of times, man, I just let it go. But working with you, working with Joan, you know, share mine a little bit. I think the two of you though, like you could branch out enough to see like what like a little bit of what I'm thinking, right? Like, so what's it like? What's a good way to explain that?
Well,
Like I'm influencing you guys a little bit with whatever music, right? Like it's pouring into you. You start to hear like where I'm coming from. Then what happens is like you reciprocate that back with like, hey, yeah, but this is my style. This is how I'm feeling with that, right? And so sometimes it'll be like maybe a word you said, maybe it's like a rhythm that you have that you guys are like rapping to it. It could be the pace you're going, and that would trigger something in me where I'm like, yes, right. That's what I couldn't do because like I really don't do lyrics. Done them. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's just to play around, but it's like it's really not my shit. You know what I mean? So it'd be like working with you guys. I'd be like, okay, that's
hey,
what it is. Like,
how come you have a rap song on iTunes then?
do I on
It's
iTunes?
yeah. You remember making my intro for Drunken Styles?
I mean,
TikTok.
I made a song. I made a song one time because, like, okay, so that was it. Okay, that was a great example. If you hear that song, it's nothing like the stuff I was doing that whole time I was in Denver, from when I learned to when I left. When I
Yeah.
came here, it's quiet out here. I had nobody out here. I downsized all my gear, and then you like hear that and like the sound gets bigger. I was able to make the sound bigger, deeper, harder. You know what I mean? And like I could hear lyrics, and I was like, "What is it? Like, what is it?" So I was like, "I have to do it." Like, I don't rap. I'm not a rapper, but I could hear it, and I was like, "I have to do this." So I did it, and then Joe was like, "Yeah, I took that song and put it on my album." I was like, oh, "Okay, dude, thanks, appreciate that, man."
Hey,
Little thief.
hey, um, right before you were talking about Denver and stuff, and then like about different things. But I don't know if you remember, I did like it was like my second album, but I never put it out. It's called the Invasion album, but that was strictly all done me and you. But I remember we going over there like daily. Me and you, we nothing, We just start cracking out some drums, and then we even did that. One of the songs that popped in my head that me and you were going back and forth, and you're like, "Joe, the little boy toucher." Remember, you remember that song?
Yeah, but and that's so and dude, I like that stuff, right? Because like I felt like and I don't mean this in any kind of I don't mean this in a terrible way or in a disrespectful way to Rich or to Jeremiah to Swifty and all of them, but like I felt like for the most part, like Joe could hear it, what I'm trying to do, right? Like Joe is in he has a different musical taste, but it branches into like hip hop, right? Like or out yeah, so maybe he listens to hip hop mostly, but what he other stuff he listens to, like you can hear like the hip hop influence in those things. Um, and
But
so whenever I was with Joe, like we never, I always felt like a pressure, like from you guys, like it had to be a certain way because you're very much like you're influenced by old Denver hip hop, like old Denver rappers and shit, right? And
Mhm.
what was this like Pure Devotion or whatever? And
I still
and then
bump
like
those.
they'd be like, oh the new Tech Nine is this, and like and like
Still bump that.
I think Paul Wall had just dropped an album sometime around that time, right? And so I felt like you guys were hearing what other people were doing, and then like wanted that sound, right? And so I always felt like if you're asking me for some, I always felt that pressure. Like you don't really want like an Antone, you don't want an Antone beat. You want Antone with the stuff to produce something like this. Joe, there was never that pressure. It was like, dude, let's just see what happens, bro. And I love that. We would just like the lyrics never had to make sense. Music didn't have to make sense. And you would do that until it like molded and turned into something where you're like, hey dude, this is fun, right? So that even the Joe the little boy toucher is sounds terrible because you're not hearing the song. Like the whole thing is funny. It's like us talking shit to each other. And it was like that was us riffing, just like, hey, let's make something up. It was like nothing. Jamming with the guitar. Oh shit, like I found one chord that sounds okay. Let's record that. Then like, what about these drums? Like, and we would build it. So yeah, dude, me and Joe would always have fun, man. And sometimes like he would have too much fun on this, like, dude, this all yours. I gotta go. Right? Like, I'm gonna go hang out with my girlfriend Molly at the time, like, you can be in here as long as you need, bro.
I do.
But even going to Joe's house, man, like whenever we would go to Joe's house, I never felt the pressure. I always felt like this is open. Like, do whatever you want, man. Where were you during all this music, Delane, man? How come you were never around, bro? Were you?
I recorded that one something I wrote in a notebook one time over at Joe's. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I
It was
do
like
remember that.
remember the 72 I think it was 72 bars or something it ended up being. I was actually shocked for just writing for me it was a mental stress thing, right? Just to get stuff off my head and write. I don't know, remember I moved off. You and Molly came and seen me and Brandon before you guys left, and I'll never forget, before you guys moved out to the mountains and stuff, when you left Denver originally. You guys came and spent a few hours with us before you ended up taking off. And
Where was this at, man? Was this
I was
who were
trying
you staying with?
because I was trying to remember, did that happen off 104th and Huron, which I live near now, or 117th and Washington?
I think you were on Washington. Was it just you and Brandon?
No.
Brandon already went back. Did he already go back to Morgan?
Yeah, I think he already went back to Morgan, but I don't know why he was up here and Adam.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you took us and you had like all these. You always give me shit. I have to mention this. I was be like, hey man, those are some pretty cool dolls you got here, bro. And Antone, action figures, not dolls. All the time, man, because I would always be like, dude, these dolls are cool. But listen, I have to say this. To this day, man, like the shit, just all the stuff I would see you create blew my mind, dude. Like,
dude, you're one of the guys who really pushed to do more.
Dude, it blew my mind. Like, you can flatter people and be like, hey, that was pretty cool, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and even we go with music when we talk about music and beats and stuff, and it's just like, hey, that's cool. Like, and sometimes it would come my way, like I'm like, oh, I just killed this shit, and people would be like, neat. You know what I mean? They don't really feel it, but like, I will watch, dude. I will watch you do. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I would watch you take this stuff. I remember going to like Target with you, dude, and you'd be like, oh, I'm looking for this specific like action figure, right? Because you knew like the ins and outs of like the company that made them, the body that was like used across different like characters or whatever, and you would turn them into your own shit, and it blew my mind, dude. I tell my daughter about it all the time. Dude, I bring you up and that shit up all the time, dude. I've never seen anything like that. It
Did
blows
you
my
see
mind.
what he was showing you?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, I seen that, dude. I know it's you, dude. I know it. That's what I mean. You're so good. You could tell exactly, dude.
And then it even has my feet shoes like I wear.
What is it? Feet shoes?
Yeah, literally, like what?
Oh, what is that? The Vibram 5?
Yeah.
5-toe or whatever.
Even the same color, see?
Yeah, of course it does, dude. That's what I'm saying, bro. I would watch this dude with like a lighter and a hair dryer, just like, oh, dude, I couldn't. And then like, and I remember this, like most of the time you would never even see a fingerprint in the Sculpey. Most of the time. Occasionally you'd see it and you'd be like, oh, Delane's slipping a little bit. But like, that's what I mean. Like the attention to detail was that much.
So funny story.
Yeah.
When we were waiting for Soul Doja to come on and Antone joined the call, I was actually showing Remo some decals I ordered for a Bray Wyatt I've been working on, and just the face Antone had. No,
what was it?
It's a Bray Wyatt. I don't know if you watch wrestling. So I took a Fiend figure and Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Plus I took some custom cloth pants and I made a Bray Wyatt figure with sick dreadlocks that they haven't done. I took a piece of metal and put it in the nose for the nose ring. And watch, let me just grab it.
So if anybody can get a hold of Matt Cardona or any of those major figure pod people, let them know that this is the guy to talk to right here.
So see, then I took the original Fiend head and I dremeled it out, hollowed it out, and I put straps on it. It's actually one that could go on a Bray Wyatt head, just don't fit on this particular figure because the way that I did his dreads on his ponytail.
Dang, dude, I'm telling you,
I
it was
hand
like,
this
dude,
tattoo.
I see.
you don't understand, bro. Like, this dude is like a god when it comes to this shit. I think we were in high school. But we just got out of high school. This dude made a Slipknot was big. This fool made an identical replica of Corey Taylor, the first, like I don't know what they call it, the first series, like the first set of masks they came out with. Delane's costume looked like he was the dude. Like it was dead on.
It was in high school.
He found the mask. That's what I'm saying. He wouldn't just he went and found the actual mask.
I made it out of a Leatherface mask and I chopped it up and sewed it back together.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. He found the mask that the original band member used, bro, and then made it.
And then
the green dreadlock.
We took braids, remember, from an Illich's hat. I took 3 braids per every dreadlock and I sewed them together inside of it and then wrapped it with green twine, remember? Had to burn it and tie it in knots to make it look sick.
Dude, he had the jumpsuit and he looked like Slipknot. I can't stress that enough, man. Like, Delane blows my mind with this shit, bro. He blows my mind.
That's why I've been saying it for a long time. Mattel, fucking, I don't care what toy brands there are. You need to hire this motherfucker yesterday.
Dude, I pushed him ever since he was like, but he has that same syndrome we all have. We're like, it's not that great. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? This shit looks better. And he'd always be like, there's better people. I'm like, I personally don't think so, dude. I've never seen anything like this shit you do. And you just do it on the regular, like, hey, Antone, check out this shit I did. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? That shit, dude, it blows my mind, dude. I think about the stuff you've done like all the time, dude.
There's my work.
Get my daughter to do that.
That's my workshop with all my paints, my Dremel, everything over there, right behind me. I don't know if you guys see that. That's where it all happens.
Yeah, but I seen you do it on a coffee table next to an ashtray full of ashes, like weed, with like a paper clip and a lighter, dude. You don't need. You remember that scene from from Half Baked where he's like, go get the bong. He's like, we don't have the bong, and he all comes out of the car and he's like, go get me an avocado, a banana peel, and a paper towel or like a paper towel roller. He's like, well, go, bro. I've made bongs with less. Like that's this dude right here, dude.
Yeah,
he's making magic with nothing, man.
Yep. Grim can make some magic happen, that's for sure.
Dude, yeah. That's an understatement, dude. Like,
hey,
you're super good, man. You're really talented.
Well, so, does this mean we'll have action figures in the future?
I mean,
dude,
we already got one, right?
They will be so realistic, bro. They'd be so realistic. It'd be like a voodoo doll. Probably have your soul in it, bro.
I want to
be careful what you ask for.
I want the Mighty Mouse body on it, though.
That's awesome.
Dude, I can't remember. Did you? I want to say like one of the last things you showed me was like you were working on, and I can't remember if you were making it or adding onto it or if you were piecing it together. But it was a apocalypse, like a big apocalypse you had. That was like one of the last things I remember you showing me.
The 18 or what was it? I don't remember if it was 18. I think it's 12 inches, 10 inches to build a figure. Have it. Yeah. But I have the better one that's made by Hasbro, way better, way sicker.
No, the best one will be one that you literally sculpt yourself, dude. Probably have magical powers for real.
No, but
I was telling Rich, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the X-Men 97? Did you watch it?
yes. So funny thing is, I was just telling my stepson last night, and we watched the first episode together and part of the second. But I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I don't love the animation. You know what I mean? It's not that I hate it. It looks close enough, but I don't love it. And I can't stand Wolverine's voice. It's not Wolverine to me. It really just irks me to hear that
Yeah.
weird voice.
Yeah.
And storyline, they're building up to the Age of Apocalypse, you know, and
Oh, is that what's gonna happen?
it's what it seems like. So my brother Brandon, I was talking to him today about it, and he's like, "Well, didn't they do that in the old show?" And I said, "No, they did Days of Future Past, which is similar to it, but it's not the same thing." And I started breaking down how Age of Apocalypse was different, where Beast is evil and he experiments on mutants. Cyclops joins Sinister. He ends up losing his eye to Wolverine. Wolverine loses his hand. You know, Rogue and Magneto get married because Rogue's powers don't work on Magneto, so that she can kiss him and touch him, and they were able to have a kid together.
But that wasn't in the cartoon, was it?
No, so that's what they're building
See, that,
toward.
yeah, that's I have to say that, like, I gotta say, like, I'm very surface level, dude. I never, if it wasn't in the little kid cartoon when we were kids, I really don't know. Right. So, and this is what I always loved. Like, we go over to your house, and and it would be like you and Brandon would just school me on all this shit. I remember one time you were like trying to tell me, I was like, yes, Star Wars is pretty stupid. And then you guys broke it down, and I was like, man, Star Wars is pretty cool. Like, after talking to you and your brother. And then I watched it and I was like, nope, Star Wars is pretty stupid. But it's because you guys would have like, you guys would fill in all these details that it's like, I'm just I'm just a layman, dude. I don't read the comics. I don't read into this story. Like, so yeah, I was gonna ask you about. I knew you'd have something to say. I was gonna watch the original X-Men, and we got to like through 2 episodes. Morph looks dumb and he sounds stupid in the original one. And then like the animation is just too choppy. It's like all old, you know, and it's just like
Yeah.
you're trying to follow, and so basically all the action looks all slow. Like, there's all an explosion. It's all, or
Yeah.
they're running and it's like, you're like, all right. And so this one, they like right out of the gate, man, like the animation I thought was cool because it's like it's not choppy. And we just finished the third episode, and it's they do such a good job of like it's more of like an anime style. You know how like when you watch anime and they would show like whatever kind of power or whatever kind of explosion, they give you like this impression that it was huge, even though it's a cartoon. You're like, whoa, that was massive, that was huge. And so I think they're doing that a good job in this cartoon, in this X-Men 97.
So I guess the reason why I don't love it is I feel like I get what they were doing for the nostalgic value, trying to go back and make them look like the original cartoon, but they made them different enough that I feel like they shouldn't have went that route. They should have just made it their own. You know what I mean? Like, instead of trying to
Yeah.
make
Okay.
it like the original but update it.
Yeah. But you're a purist, my friend. You know what I mean? I would be okay with that too. This is honestly how I feel about every Terminator movie that comes out. It's like, please ditch Arnold Schwarzenegger, ditch whoever, what's the lady who plays
Sarah
what's her
Connor.
name?
Sarah Connor.
Ditch the original Sarah Connor actor. Ditch them, dude. You don't need those people. The story's so tight. Like, could you imagine what they could do with that storyline if they just like scrap those two old people? Like, enough,
Well, they
dude.
should have finished John Connor's storyline, to be honest, and they were going that direction and it just done, you know?
Yeah.
Keep
I
trying to
think
go
Yeah.
back to the past.
Yeah, because they're trying to find ways to keep this stupid ass and that lady in the movie. It's like, please stop putting them in the movies. Like, the storyline's so amazing, you're hurting it with right? Like I would love for him to scrap it and just start like do that whole story from the beginning again. Like I would love to watch a Terminator, Terminator 2 and on, like just a reboot, like a brand new like storyline from that shit, man. Even we'd watched the what was the last one? Was it it's not Salvation, is it? Where like
It's like Genesis or something.
what is the
Yeah.
Genesis? I was like, oh dude, this it started out pretty tight. I was like, oh, this is pretty sick. And then like they find Sarah Connor and it's the original actor, you know, and I was like, man,
I know, and Arnold's all old in it.
she looked and acted like how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just like have you ever met like somebody who just like, you know, is like a tight ass and smokes cigarettes and you're like, cool, I'll never hang out with you. You're weird. You know what I mean? Like disgruntled. She like the storyline was going great and fine, and then they brought that element in there, and you're like, ugh. Can you sit at another table, please? You know what I mean? Like it sucked, dude. And then they find Arnold Schwarzenegger for some reason. She's like, I know somebody who knows a little thing about this. And they go find him, and he's all like,
He's got a
I
beard.
don't know, he's like a cable repairman. Like, come, stop. What are you doing? Stop. Right? Is that what he was? He was something stupid. It's like, you took one of the baddest dudes ever. You made this robot live out like a normal life. Like, stop this. Like, we're not dumb, dude. Anyways, all right. What about Deadpool though? What about Deadpool? You and Brandon like tried to school me on Deadpool like forever ago. What do
So
you think about these?
I love it. I love that Ryan Reynolds fought for it. I love that it's more accurate. I'm excited for the new Wolverine one, although I don't know how much we should say on here. You know, I don't really want to ruffle feathers, but you know, as far as this new one goes,
Ruffle them.
okay, is that rumor has it the reason why Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman haven't promoted it. It comes out this year, and isn't that funny? Ryan Reynolds has always been big on promoting Deadpool, but they haven't promoted it
Yeah.
because rumor has it with the agenda Disney's been having with putting in more transgender and LGBTQ type storylines, characters, and things like that. People have started to walk away from that type of stuff that Disney's doing, right? There's a lot of talk about why people aren't liking it. According to the rumor, Disney cut out some scenes to put something of that nature into the Deadpool 3 movie. Hugh Jackman was extremely upset because they were scenes that he helped write for Wolverine and he felt they were detrimental to the Wolverine character in this movie. And so he refused to do it. They even canceled their interviews and stuff about this movie that was scheduled for them through Disney. And Ryan Reynolds, obviously being his friend, followed suit, and he isn't happy with it either that they were changing things that weren't initially in the movie and taking things out. So we'll see how this
Well,
third
dude,
movie
if you
out.
if you're saying it, it must be gospel, bro.
So I'm kind of skeptical on how it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Because I love the other Deadpool movies, and the fact that Reynolds isn't really promoting it and stuff, it really makes me kind of wonder. And same with Hugh Jackman. I mean, we've all been waiting for these two to finally come together. To you, it's finally happening, but neither one of them are promoting the movie, so that's kind of leaves me wondering how it's really going to be.
Give me one second. I'm trying to find a chord before my.
That's definitely something that we're gonna get into when it comes out, and we could review it, and we could get a lot more into that. I didn't know any of that, Graham. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Now let's get into those conspiracies, bro. Talk about that. I was like, I gotta ask all these dudes all these questions.
Well, we're coming up on an hour right now. We're coming up on an hour right now, so we only got about 20 minutes left or so, and I definitely want to make sure we get into your whole food truck venture. So go ahead and get into whatever conspiracies you want to get into, but I want to go ahead and circle back to the food truck.
So
why talk about that when I know Joe's got some? What are you working on, bro? What are you cooking up, man?
I don't know how much of my things you had seen, but before I went down a really dark path of really researching into conspiracy theories, and it sent me in a path of depression. And what I ended up doing is, instead of like trying to prove that, because you're never going to win, right? You could try to say, "Oh, this is what's going on," till you're blue in the face, and people still aren't going to hear it. They're still not going to wake up to it, but your job is not to wake people up. And that's what made me step out of the depression. And instead, I started learning about esoteric and occult studies and knowledges, and then studying the symbols and meanings behind things, and how they use certain symbols and meanings to affect us, even subconsciously, and try to create this world we live in, a negative world, and bring about basically an apocalypse in a way of using symbolism,
Get, in,
right? All
get
time
into it, buddy. There
scripture,
we go.
Tower of Babel. Okay, so according to this legend, if for those in the viewers who don't know, Nimrod was behind the Tower of Babel, and people built this tower wanting to go to heaven to kill God for leaving us here. That was Nimrod's goal. Okay, when God came, he destroyed this tower, and he separated everyone on the earth, and he changed their languages so that they couldn't come back together and do something like this again. And with that being said, that's where the mythology of secret signs and symbols came from, because now that everyone had been separated and their languages changed, the only way to really communicate was through signs and symbols.
Okay, let me. All right, I'm gonna because this could go forever and it could go deep, right? But is it Christian based off of Jesus Christ and his Father God?
Um, you're talking about what I study, or
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like out of curiosity. Like you, my friend Delane, like what is it like? Is that the point of view you come from? Like this is that like
so we haven't
Christianity
really
is.
talked in a while, dude, and I joined what is a Masonic order. I'm part of a
Oh,
Masonic.
you did?
Um,
Oh,
I'm
that's
a
dope. Don't
Rosicrucian,
tell Joe.
which comes from a Christian-based background, but they come out of Egypt, is where they claim that it really came from the mystery schools of Egypt, which I could get into at another point. But I mean, it does tie to Hebrew, Egyptian, Buddhism, Persian, um, many things.
But the Rosicrucians, they what did they branch from?
The Templars initially.
Knights,
So
because the Knights Templar was they were like protecting Christians on pilgrimages
yes, and
to.
the Grail. So that's how they started, as they were called the poor old knights of the Temple of King Solomon. And to shorten it, they became the Templar Knights. And at the time, there was no people to protect Christians going to Muslim lands to see these historic sites. So the Templars took this on to do it for no money. But people started giving them money, and they actually created the first banking system. So if you were trying to carry a bunch of gold into another country, you would just go to a Templar bank, give them all this money. They give you a receipt, taking 10% off the top for protecting your money, transferring it, and protecting you on your journeys. And then they give you the when you go to another Templar bank, you give them that receipt, and they give you all your money back minus the 10%.
But then now didn't they, whether it was like a branch off of them or them themselves, the Knights Templar, they like were they using that as like a bit of like a front? Like they weren't, yes, we're protecting people, but actually we're looking for like all these holy relics like in this land. Like we're looking for the cup, we're looking for the ark, we're looking for Jesus' body himself, or the cross, or like the
So the
spear.
Grail is thought to be a cup. No one knows for sure. But as far as the Ark of the Covenant, that was in the keep of the Templar, and so was the Holy Grail. Okay, whatever it may be. And when the Knights Templar were executed on October 13th, 1307, which is why it's October 13th considered a bad luck day. And I mean, I don't know how much you want me to get into that, Remo.
We won't go into too much just because, like, Rich
But
saying there's some
so
time.
that Ark of the Covenant and the Grail disappeared in historically, is after 15,000 members were executed basically overnight through the deception of the King of France, deceiving the Vatican, and the Pope issuing out orders to execute these knights. The remaining survivors fled, and they fled to Italy, Germany, and Scotland, becoming 3 different Masonic organizations that we know today. And the Grail and the Ark of the Covenant had disappeared, and no one knows where they are to this day. There's speculation. People claim that they have it, and no one's seen it. There's speculation where.
Yeah, I've seen that there's people think that there's more than one, like a handful of them possibly. In that,
So,
you don't get into this stuff, Rich. You don't get into that, man.
We have like ideas and thoughts of having different things and separate shows for different things. So
Yeah.
as far as the Dro Bros Show goes, we haven't really gotten into anything like this, but there will be things in the future coming still that will touch on more stuff like this, because one of the main points that I want to bring across is that understanding and respecting each other's differences as far as like our spiritual journeys go, I think is going to be a main plot point. And that's something that I want to definitely stress, because I feel like that's one of the problems that we have in society today, is that we have this misunderstanding when it comes to each other's journeys. And as a result of it, there's a lot of judgment and a lot of hate. And I'm trying to do my part at least, and with us as a brotherhood already, because we all go back so far and we have such a love for each other and affinity for each other, that we can be respectful and have those conversations without really offending anybody and without really taking it to a point to where there's contentment. And like I said, that'll be a whole nother show that'll be kind of branched off of what we're doing here. So no,
Yeah,
as
I
far as
agree, man.
Dro Bros
this
Show goes right now, it has nothing like that yet, but there
it,
will be things like that
Well,
eventually.
I
it's the reason why
I
I
haven't talked to you guys in so long. I have to get it all. I got to get
Yeah,
it
that's
all,
okay.
man. What if I don't
no,
That's
talk to you guys for another 100 years, right?
right.
And then this is the thing too, man. Like, even it wouldn't. This is just us as grown-ups. Even when we were younger, when we were kids, and having these conversations, man. Like with Elaine, I always knew just enough to get lost, because he would go off like this all the time. That's what I mean. I used to enjoy this being like, whether it was you and your brother, like trying to school me on some shit, and then convincing me that it was cool, but it really wasn't cool. Like, I like that. It was like you guys were a powerful duo, or whether it was you and Adam or just Adam alone. But I've had conversations with all 3 of you where it's just been like, I'll say whatever, you say whatever back, and it's just like, no, we just don't agree. We don't believe what each other's is saying be true. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean I'm not interested, man. I
and,
had
and that's the beautiful part about the
I
whole
met a
thing, is that we don't necessarily
dude here.
the same opinions, but we definitely respect each other's values and beliefs, because we're all good people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's where I think the underlying thing lies. So I think it's important to be able to understand and respect where each other are coming from. So that's a big point.
shout out to
yeah.
future.
And when sometimes, like, when you talk to people and they go like, "Here's my beliefs," or it's like a Christian, they go like, "Here's your Bible." One time I was talking to Joe, and he was like, "Here's my Bible," and he handed me a David Icke book. You guys ever you ever read David Icke, dude? Don't do
I
that.
I I still I still he's still going. I still read his books.
Is
He's
he?
yeah.
Every once in a while, man, he'll pop up, and I start thinking of you. I'm like, man,
I've
this
been
dude's like he's like a real journalist for like for people in the conspiracy, and conspiracies can go anyway. We say that, but it's just like, do we go down that Rosa Krishna conspiracy? Like, do we can speculate on what they've done, what we think they've done. You
Well,
can go and,
is
some people are made out of lizards, and what's that about? You know what I mean? Well, David Icke is for you, bro. He'll break
conspiracy
it down.
created by the government to try to debunk people who might be putting out some actual facts compared to legitimate lies.
Could be. I know there was a every now and then I check in on this UFO dude, and not that I believe him, I just like his story the most as far as all UFO stories go. But he was just, he said that when what he's saying is true and he believes to be true, he says the way the government combats that is by you don't stop that person from putting out that information. Instead, you flood it with all kinds of information. Now we don't know, right? We just don't know what's true because there's so much information around.
Well, and there's paid liars out there too. That's why you have to be careful. They're paid to be out there just to act crazy, so that way people associate truth with crazy people, and they associate
There you
lies
go.
with people that are legitimate.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's fun for me, man. All right,
Sounds
what's up,
it
man?
sounds like
You want?
you're gonna end up having to be a guest on that show too. It sounds like, which will also be pretty cool, I think.
I just played the devil's advocate because, like,
Well, and that's
um,
the shout out is there's 2 shows in the works. Soul Doja mentioned one show that him and Maya are working on that he and I had a conversation that we felt would be better suited for that type of show. Now, Remo and I have been talking. He wants to do a spirituality show with a panel of people and talking about spirituality and different belief systems and how we're able to still, in some way, resonate some level with still
I had
having.
one of my old neighbors here. Um, Dude was cool. Like, he was a carpenter. He ran his own business, and he he was a pastor, and he lived that life. Like, his wife stayed home and raised, like, all their kids. They had a bunch of kids. Super nice, super respectful, all of them. And so I would ask him questions. I'd be like, "Hey, man, well, what about this? What about?" And he would, like, answer them. He's like, "Yeah." We tried to get into it a little bit. Yeah. I'd ask him some more. Yeah. And then one day we were doing a job together, and he just stopped me and he was like, "What's the deal, man? What's the deal?" And I knew this is exactly how he probably treats, like, young people in his congregation or whatever you call that gathering, right? And he was like, "What's the deal, man? Why are you playing these games?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no." I was like, "You got it all wrong." Because I thought he was about to, like, break you. What are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do with your soul? This kind of thing. And I was like, "Dude, more than that, like, because I personally don't know. The Bible to me is very much just like it could be a story, could be real. I don't know that for sure. I'm just gonna have to assume, like, for this point, it's stories. What I'm more interested in is how did you, the man, like, devote your life to this? Like, that's way more interesting to me. Like, you're my neighbor, bro. Like, what happened to you in your life that led you down this path where this is a for sure thing for you? We'd have those talks where he's like, "No, this is real to me. This is absolutely, this is not pretend, this is not wishful thinking. Like, this is real life." That interests me more in how does a human being find that kind of relationship with what some of us think could be fake, could be like a story that could be manipulated. Like, well, how did you end up at that path? And that shit's fascinating. But the same way it would be fascinating because I told him this too, man. I was like, I there's so we live in a Christian nation, so it's not a miracle. It's not any kind of, like, we're, of course, Christian. This kind of Christian indoctrination is all around us. Sometimes you might be indoctrinated with, like, a Catholic truth, and then you go, "Hey, this is wrong." Then you move over to a Pentecostal or, like, a Baptist or whatever. But it's like, yeah, we're surrounded by Christianity. It's also, like, way more interesting to me is, like, there are Muslims, there are Hindus, and you could imagine, like, even within it, they have their own branches, their own sects, right? But those people are moved to that spirituality and like that kind of belief too. Like, what's happening? What is that common thread we all have? That you really find God and salvation and all these miracles in that. It's fascinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And that's kind of like where Grim and I got into that conversation about this other show we were talking about. Is like, if we're born on two opposite sides of the world, I mean, who's to say who's right and who's wrong? You know what I mean? Brought up with certain traditions and certain religions or whatever that you're just born into. Like, it's hard to say my shit is right and your shit is wrong. And I don't really feel like that's the right way to be. I feel like we all have the same destination in mind. It's just our journeys and our manual, for a lack of a better term, to get to that point is that's where the differences lie. And I think that that's what's important about this show is to figure out those differences between us and to understand them better and to respect them from each other and not be disrespectful about it. So that's kind of what we'll get into. But we're coming down to like the last 10 minutes of our show here, and I want to get into your food truck. So tell us how we
All
how we
right.
got involved with this. Tell us how the super producer Antone Beats turned out to be a vegan food truck connoisseur.
Dude, I don't know, dude. It was all an accident, all this whole thing. I don't know if I could wrap it up in 10 minutes. Okay. Uh, like I said, when we were kids, I made bad choices with all of you guys, right? It was fun at the time, probably not a good idea. Even with Ashes, like, man, no. With Adam, like, bunch of stuff we shouldn't have done together, right? Like, whatever. Meet Molly. He Before we left Denver, I was like, man, like my digestion wasn't great, didn't feel good. Could have been all just the way we were living, right? Wasn't living great, wasn't eating great. But you were there, like, man, we were just eating. I mean, everything short of cardboard, dog. You know what I mean? If cardboard could be put in that George Foreman grill, I would have ate that too. Like, we just weren't eating well, like. And so it went from that to like, and I was trying to think like, what have I seen? Like, how could I help myself? I remember I seen this weirdo on PBS, and he was like, I don't eat anything with a heartbeat or a face or something like that. You know what I mean? Or anything with a pulse and a face or a mother and a face, something like that. I was like, all right, what's that about? So by the time I'd gotten with Molly, stopped eating beef, and I was like, well, just cut it out. And then that led to stop eating pork. And then after not eating pork, I stopped eating chicken. And after chicken, I stopped eating turkey. And then after the turkey, it was a bunch of seafood. Then you realize Colorado's way far away from seafood, so you stopped eating seafood. But we'd eat like salmon and things like that for like probably a couple years. And Molly and I had split up for a while, and I I moved in with my mom, kind of bummed. Remember one day I got up to like go make a tuna sandwich. I was like, hell yeah, the Costco tuna's pretty good. And I went to go make that tuna sandwich. I was looking at the tuna like in the cupboard, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I don't want tuna right now. And that was it. I don't know what happened. Like that, I just never ate meat again. That was it. I don't remember my last meat dish. I didn't plan on it. Even all those things I told you I cut out, like there wasn't a plan for it. I just like, let me just start with this one meat, which led to another meat, which led to I was looking for lighter and lighter meat. You know what I mean? Until like, fish is pretty easily digestible. And then it just kind of got to a point. I was like, nah, I don't want that. And then vegetarian, bunch of vegetables, milk, cream, cheese, all this kind of stuff. And then I do remember, I do remember like I always thought Delane can second this. In the town we grew up in, the beef plant runs the town. Like
Yeah.
your family or whoever, dude, your family, you're like in your house, you possibly work at the beef plant or the Leprino cheese factory, or you work in the feedlots outside of town. Beef is an industry, so it never crossed my mind that it was wrong at all. It's like, no, just because I don't need it doesn't mean it's not a job and a lifestyle, and it pays for all these things. And then after not eating meat for, I don't know, a couple years, like compassion for animals came by itself. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't look for it. I was just like, whoa, this is not these. I started thinking like, what's really happening? They're killing these animals like systematically. In Fort Morgan, you hear stories of the kill floor, and it's just like, what? Like, it was so normalized to us. It's like, this is okay. This is how it's supposed to be. And then it hit me. I was like, this is not okay. This is terrible. And then vegetarian, still a bunch of cheese, dairy, all this stuff. And Molly was making fun of me because someone had said this to me years ago. They said, meat is murder and dairy is rape. And I was like, man, like, what do you, that's terrible. Don't say those things, you know? And she kept, I was like, isn't that terrible? Years after I heard it, she kept saying that to like jab me, you know, just poke at me. And she said it so many times in like a week that I was like, I can't eat this cheese. Just, I can't, like, I don't want to do that. This is messing me up. And then from there, you know, years of just vegan living, dude. It just happened. Never planned it. Stopped smoking weed so I could get a job at FedEx. Didn't plan on stopping, just never happened again. Yeah. So, you know, stopped hanging out with the bad crowds. Looking at three of them. Stopped smoking weed. Stopped eating meat. Stopped eating dairy. It's like, dude, the only thing that's left is for one of you guys to save me. Bring me over to Jesus Christ. I'm looking at two of you. One of you will push me farther away.
Well, we only got about
Like, yeah.
7 minutes left. So when did you actually buy the truck, and when did you come up with
Dude,
the
so
idea
that
of
part,
doing?
this part is even crazy. The whole thing, man, to like sum it up quickly, it was synchronicities. Like one thing led to another thing that was beyond coincidence. I'm talking about from I had that school bus that I built, turned it into a house, a schoolie, finding a lady who bought it. At the same time, we found someone who was selling a food truck. Food truck had everything in it that we wanted. We like we lowballed the guy, and he accepted. He was like, yes. We're just like, oh my god. Even from the time I was able to, there was a break in the weather, a small break in the weather where I was able to drive the bus to Kansas to this lady who paid us all this money for it, like to the following weekend, to going out to meeting this guy, to like getting it here, like to getting a free refrigerator, like a commercial prep kitchen, to all the people I'd mentioned to you personally that came out and helped. Like the synchronicities in this is just, it is ridiculous. And that's kind of it, man. Like started with one quick idea. Molly went to go pick up a free sandwich prep table from a coffee roaster here. And I was gonna tell her no, and then I was like, why should I get in her way? So like, okay, we started looking at trucks. Like, okay, here's a couple of recipes, and I don't know how to cook, but I just said I have to do one or two things good, and then I can expand on that. And it's just been, it was crazy, dude. Last year was crazy. Like we learned so much, and that's really it. Like it was just synchronicity. Like you say yes to the right thing over and over and over and over and over again. Like, and we almost didn't even have to try. That sounds crazy because there was so much work put into it, but it's like you're saying yes to the right things, or the work becomes um is fulfilling, right? To learn something new, to meet somebody new, to learn like a new food to cook or whatever. And yeah, and then people think of vegan as a certain way, like a hippie kind of whatever. My wife and I we're shit talking good people, dude. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So we named it Vegan AF Box. Vegan as fuck food truck. Well, it was gonna be vegan as fuck food truck. We found other people who had it, so we're like, well, what are we gonna do? We're like, box. It's a box. I don't know if you remember this, but remember when we were little kids and you go, you're gonna get you some box. You remember? And it was this like talking about getting some, and it was like, oh my god, the box is the birth of everything. You know what I mean? And so for us, it was like the vegan as fuck box, dude. And so it's, yeah. And then we got a little bunny as our logo, and he's kind of got the praying hands. And some people got kind of worried. They said, "Hey man, you know, like, oh, but we wanted this 90s theme, so it's got airbrush. It looks like it says vegan AF box and airbrush. from like that 90s stuff. The bunny with the praying hands, he's got vegan tattooed and little carrots tattooed. It's from all the lowrider shirts we used to watch. All the homies. Remember the homies shirts and the lowrider shirts?
Oh yeah.
It's just like, plus you have the rabbit. We always get this joke. People go, I don't eat rabbit food. It's like, yo, dude, look at this little thug. You know what I mean? He's all tatted up. He's got like this. He's like, this rabbit's not a punk. He's got a potty mouth, and he makes good food. That's it, man.
I love it. I love it. So it's Vegan AF Box in Gunnison for
Vegan
anybody
AF
that
box.
for it.
Yep.
So where else can we find you? If there's any aspiring rappers or artists out there that are trying to get some Antone Beats, is there any way they could get a hold of you and find some of this?
Dude, I'm so rusty, bro. Every time I break out the music, I just built the desk so I was like, I put my monitors up, got the keyboard. I was like, I'm gonna get into this. And like all I want to do right now is like make like 90s jungle drum and bass, dude. Like I can't stop listening to it. Like
Ain't nothing wrong
for
with
me,
that.
like no, dude, it doesn't age, bro. Like you listen to it, you're just like, why is this so good? I thought I want to make that. I even thought about it, I was like, man, I wonder if I could do something like that, send it your way, and it would kind of like, work on something back and forth. But I don't know,
Well,
dude.
we're always
You
available.
can't find me. Yeah.
Well,
I exist in the past, bro.
For those of you that are interested and would like to hear more of Antone, I'm sure we will get down on another episode here in the near future. But Doja has some Antone Beats available to some of his projects that he's putting out. I also have some that are going to be coming out soon that has some more of Antone Beats, and things are going to be coming out shortly for both of us. And I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say about it and what they're thinking about it, because he has a very unique style all to himself, and it's very fun to be able to collaborate with him, to be able to push my own limitations to see what I could do. So I'm eagerly anticipating any kind of work that we do more in the future, because it's always a beautiful thing when we do it. And I'm anxious to hear what you and Doja come up with too, because like you said, the two of you kind of click on a whole different level, and it makes it for a more organic sound. So I'm anxious to see what happens with that also. Is there anything else, Grim and Doja, you want to ask Antone before we out? We got about 4 minutes left here.
You were saying earlier that you want to know like what connects us all and everything, why we all have the same beliefs. You take these mushrooms and you find the answer, and the beliefs are in there.
I don't know how me and you never did, man. The last time I did them was with Delane and Adam, and dude, it was like the craziest adventure. Like it was so crazy I had to stop. But yeah, there was elements of that. Like Delane was popping around like, who's the aliens? I was like, it is us, bro. It is us. And he was just like bouncing around like a cartoon, dude. It reminded me like Roger Rabbit. Dude, it was that whole thing was nuts, man. I love it.
Joe said and what you said earlier, where you said two of you might lead you to Christ and one might push you away. Honestly, to be honest, and I mean this is with no disrespect to any one of us or our beliefs, but the reality is I feel like you're on the path, dude. You resonate with your synchronicities. Synchronicities are connection to your spirit, which is connection to intuition, connection to source. That's you resonating with your higher spirit or the path that you need to be on, and the fact that you recognize it, and the fact that your life's worked out the way that it has, and that you have a beautiful family and everything. And I'm happy for you, dude. I truly am. I feel that there's nothing any of us could tell you that's going to take you any better than what you already know in here.
That was a trick question, and you passed.
Love that.
Dude.
That's a
You passed.
It's a very well put thought. And I think that's a great ending point here, because we're only coming about 20 seconds left here. So that was perfect. I appreciate everybody that were tuned in and listened to Antone Beats on the Dro Bros Show. And stay tuned, because we will have him back again, because there's lots more to talk about, clearly. So we will enjoy another episode here. And thank you, everybody. Sorry we don't have any song picks for this week, but we'll pick it back up next week. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Dro Bros out.
Bye, guys.
Later.